Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, in the boardroom. An interesting event, to be sure, the merger of golf and sports, but all in the context of business. The Indy Women in Tech Championship held in September at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're here to unveil a car that Guggenheim is underwriting on behalf of Indy Women in Tech. But more important, we're here to learn a little bit more about the business of racing generally, the business of A.J. Foyt Racing, and who better, Larry Foyt, president of A.J. Foyt Racing. How are you?
How are you?
Good. Thank you very much for doing this. So, you drove in the 05, 04, 06 Indianapolis 500 Indianapolis 500 for A.J. Foyt Enterprises. How scary was it driving for your dad?
Well, I had driven for him for a while, so I was used to it over in the NASCAR series.
Yeah.
So, but my dream was always Indianapolis. This race is what I grew up coming every year of my life, and watching Dad race in it leaves quite an impression on a young kid. So even though my career ended up heading toward NASCAR and stock cars, my dream was to get to Indianapolis and drive an Indy car around Indy. So I was just glad I got to do it.
Well, we'll certainly talk to your dad about the perspective of racing then and racing now. But give me your perspective on it as a NASCAR driver, on an Indy driver. Comment generally about both businesses. Have they gone at the same speed? Are they different? Are they similar to where they were when you were, actively participating?
Absolutely. Well, in business is actually the reason I ended up going to NASCAR, because back then there was the split in the IndyCar leagues, which everyone talks about, the split, and which we're still recovering from, but it feels like right now IndyCar has huge momentum. The split seems like long ago, and everyone's back together, and IndyCar's growing again and has a great feel around it. Business-wise, to have sponsors like Guggenheim come on board and be tied with this LPGA event is just great for IndyCar.
So let's go back to that for a minute. Now you've been running A.J. Foyt Enterprises for a decade, and when you were involved in learning the business or knowing the business, this, you call it a split and it's over, but it was a massive schism. It was Hatfield-McCoy's. So at the time, who were the rallying forces basically that caused it to come back together, and how was life in the division different than life as it is today?
Sure. Well, what you hate to see are the fans divided, because
right.
You had some fans that were loyal to one side and some fans that were loyal to the other. But for us on the business side, the good thing was, as I came back over and started to get involved in the business side, and you kind of say how that happened, in my second Indy 500, I actually broke my back in a pretty big crash. So I started wanting to get more involved on the business side as I was stepping out of the car. And the biggest thing with us is, here you have A.J. Foyt, you have a legend who won everything, won in many decades, front engine cars, rear engine cars. And at the same time, I felt like our team hadn't really taken that step into the modern era, and we were still a little bit set in some old school ways. So that was my thing. I said, Dad, if I come into this, you have to let me modernize. We have to start charging ahead. And that's what's been great, and it takes great partners to do that. We got aligned with ABC Supply. Now they've been our sponsor the last 12 years, which is unbelievable. In fact, now they are the longest full-time running sponsor in IndyCar, which is great. And that's what's let us grow. Back then we were one car. We're up to two, and now three at Indianapolis with the iWeight Championship car. So it's exciting.
So the idea of asking the namesake, the icon, to kind of leave you alone and let you run the business. I'm sure he said, "Yeah, I'll do it," but did he really?
Of course not. And I wouldn't ask him that, because especially when he's always my biggest bank of information. He's still. It's amazing how up to date he is with everything every day. I rarely make big decisions without talking to him. Of course, he's still the boss, and his experience and knowledge, you can't put a number on that. It's unbelievable.
Is there a tension ever between preserving the old and modernizing? And it's always something business schools warn about. But how do you preserve the legacy and move on and be relevant?
Well, I think we pay a lot of tribute to all his success, and that's one way I think we keep. It's amazing even how at his age the fans, even at Indianapolis, still love him. When he walks out through Gasoline Alley, the fans just go nuts and really appreciate all of his accomplishments. And I think the thing is too, he can do it all, which is pretty rare. I mean, he was a mechanic, an engineer, a driver, so he really knows every part of that race car, and people respect that.
The brand, the building of the brand, and maybe more important, the sustaining of the brand. And the textbooks all talk about the Arnold Palmers and the Jack Nicklauses and the younger LeBron James and the Michael Jordans. You know, AJ Foyt's in that category too. How do you look ahead to the longevity of the brand, and how do you make sure you sustain it?
Well, we want to win. I mean, that's
Yeah.
number one for us, is getting back in victory lane. And it's been since 2013 since we won a race, and it's been since 1999 since we won the Indy 500. So we know we have our work cut out for us, and that's by growing and modernizing. We feel like we're getting more competitive every year. And that's what we want to do. Is the Foyt brand is built on winning, and that's what we want to do.
I'm sure there will be another Foyt perspective on this, but do you like the way the business is going?
I do. Like I said, we want more wins, and you know, AJ reminds us of that every day, because that's what he wants to do, is win. But we've got great partners, and that's letting us grow the team to where we need to be.
A little nervous about fans, you know, NASCAR. I mean, you have to ask that question of the France family, and you see the attendance, television attendance. How do you deal with the challenges of sustaining excellence?
Well, I think we obviously live in a much different world than we did in past generations, where maybe the automobile was the most important thing in your life and was a huge part of your young adult life. Where now technology has advanced so far to where you know, telephones and data and all the information we have as young kids are kind of leading the way. So I think that really trends towards our cars. Our cars are fast and sleek, and they're really supercomputers running around the racetrack gathering data all the time. So I think it'll really appeal to young fans.
So speaking of young driver like Zach Veach, I mean, you look at that car, and plus he's 4'8", 38 pounds. How does he, you know, he bulks up every day and he gets in that car, and he's an athlete. You must be proud to see a kid like that in that car.
Well, he is. I've seen some photos and video of him doing his rock climbing, where he gains a lot of his strength, and it's really impressive. So a lot of these young drivers, what's great is we've got little guys like Zach who are strong, but then also bigger guys who get it done as well. So it's really all over the board, and I think we have a really good driver in Zach.
Well, Larry Foyt, I really appreciate your perspective, but we need to go from the perspective of one of the youngest guys. He's looked like he's 12, Zach Veach, to an icon.